So I'm going to go ahead and delete that booleans thing there that we were just talking about. We'll recreate that later. And back in here, back into our fracture area. So we have our terrain. Now let's start applying that cutter business. So I'm going to go ahead and say that so far this is all well and good. This was initial setup. But now we're going to move on into our first cut. So we got our cutters here. Let's name them just so we can address them more easily later. And remember, assemble doesn't pack by default, but does create names by default. And because there's essentially 3 islands of geometry, there's going to be piece 0, piece 1, and piece 2, as we can see here. Great. So I'm going to make a split and say I want to carve out just the middle part right now. I just want this whole area. So ignoring the middle cut for now, let's just grab this whole middle thing. So we've named them, we go down to the split, and I can say, I only want the outside one, so I'm going to say select from here. Remember, press this to be able to select in here. And I want to use select by the name. So I'm going to say that one, and shift click that one, press enter, and I have them here. Now, if you did it wrong, just like in Rigids 3, you can always click this again, and it's highlighted them for us. If you don't want the colors, you can turn that off. But it's this one and this one. So enter. So we got them both. So now the left input, as we can see, is the result of the split by default. So there it is, the left side. If we looked at the right side, it would be everything else. And that's really all a split's doing. It's just a fun little way to do the standard delete non-selected, delete selected thing. That looks a little nicer. So anyway, so we've got these guys. We've got the 2. And we talked extensively just a moment ago about how to use the Boolean, so let's just do it. We take the terrain input for the Boolean. We say we want to do a shatter. We know the secondary input is a surface. And for the record, although this will work right off the bat, like so, and we'll see our green lines and everything else to show us that it did it right. Something that we don't want to do, and you'll see this even in the Houdini help card, is turn the detriangulate off, turn the collapse tiny seam adjacent edges off. You turn these off if you intend on doing subsequent fractures, and we definitely intend on doing many, many more fractures. These things can interfere with subsequent, they're like nice little cleanup things, but anyway. So it looks like this now. Unfortunately, we still have some viewport errors, it seems, in Houdini 16. And sometimes I find if I put an exploded view down, it'll go away. And see now if I delete it and I come back to this, it's there again. What we can do to avoid that, oopsies, is we can either go into this mode. So as you can see, there's no error here now. So this is just a little sidetrack thing, unfortunately. I don't want to do this too much, but you can see we don't have any normals errors now, and we just did a moment ago. There seems to be something wrong with the viewport still. If it ever gets too bad, just go to flat shaded and you won't see it. You will get all the faceted things and won't see the smooth normals, but oh well. So anyway, so we did that. We got it. Once again, we'll make the new names based on that. If we want to see what it looks like, we can explode it. Now here's something interesting. This black area is not just, big swaths of errors. This is actually correct. We created normals on the surface, but we certainly didn't create normals on the inside. What the Boolean does is whatever you're feeding into it on the right side, let's say if we're doing a shatter, an A versus B, shatter, it's copying over parameters that are on the right side to the left side. So right now, first of all, we're getting all these extra stroke attributes, which we definitely don't need. So going back up to the draw curve, go to the curve thing here, create stroke attributes, turn that off. And now we don't have them anymore. And the Boolean performed here will still have these 2 problems though. One is it essentially copied the color. I'll just go here so you can see it better. It copied the color of the cutters, which is essentially nothing. well, it does have a blank nothing, but either way, that's why it ends up white. So we don't care that much about that. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete the color, because it's going to look worse and worse as we go along anyway. We'll add the color back in at the very end when we're doing our high-res last-minute stuff. When we replace the low-res simulation data with the high-res, we'll actually apply materials and stuff then. So we definitely don't need it now. The problem is that we're still going to have these black internals, and that's just simply because there are no normals. There's no normals on the inside. So let us drop down a normals SOP, which will create normals for everybody. And that's fine. That does work. The thing with that is that it's also creating normals along the surface. As you can see, like here, it's doing the best job it can. But we already made nice normals before. We want to keep those. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, let's just record in a group what the new surfaces actually are. So B inside A is that group for us. B, again, being the cutting planes themselves. They're not planes anymore, but you know what I mean. They're cutters. B is that side, and A is, of course, the original terrain. So B inside A is wherever the cutting plane essentially intersects with the original thing, and that is the new surfaces. In fact, we can just drop down, oops, wrong one. We could drop down a blast to isolate that. We can say, show me B inside A, unselected, and there you go. It's the new surface. And once again, this is viewport error stuff. It's not real. Unfortunately, we'll have to keep dealing with that. So we have that, that's the inside. So that's really the only part we need to apply new normals to. So here it is, exploded. Let's just do it to B inside A. So we still have nice new normals. If it's off, it's black. If it's on, it's good. And if we don't explode it, we can still see we don't have anything screwed up on the surface anymore. Awesome.